and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we are looking at a full breakdown of the healing and lifesteal pals. So we're going to be talking about three different categories when it comes to the healing and lifesteal pals. We're going to be looking at combat, overall healing ability, and their base abilities. In other words, what they can do inside of your base. So we'll organize these guys and I'll kind of touch base on it. And if you want any information on any of these in particular pals, I have a video separated of each pal, and specifically with the Felbat, I corrected some of the things that I said in the Felbat video at the beginning of the Lylene video. So I urge, if you do watch the Felbat video, to watch at least the beginning of the Lylene video, because I do correct myself on some of the things that I was saying in there. So as far as overall healing capability, both of the Lylenes get top spot here because they heal at 5-star at 2,000 and they start at 1,000 with no stars. So with most people, that's about half your health pool right there, depending on how much points you put into health. But both of these guys do the same exact thing as far as their healing capabilities. Number 2 spot, I'm gonna go with Felbat, because although her lifesteal doesn't work that well against the world bosses, it does, however, work really well against tower bosses. It is a percentage base. With her healing, she goes by a percentage base of the damage that she is dealing or the damage that you are dealing, and you heal yourself versus her healing herself. So those are two added things that are really good. As far as her percentage basis, it goes 2% at no stars, 3% at 1 star, 4% at 2 stars, 5% at 3 stars, and 6% at 4 stars. And with it being a percentage base and the overworld bosses or world bosses don't take as much damage, I'm talking about Frostallion or someone like Anubis or Jetrag, and any of these overworld bosses or world bosses, as I've been calling them, take less damage usually, especially when it comes to the higher end ones. But the tower bosses have such a large health pool that they take a significant amount more of damage and allows you to be healed off of her a lot better. Third place with healing, I'm gonna go with Pentrella, because she starts out at 4 but ends at 800, I think. Okay, she starts out with 400 and ends with 800. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I wish I had a Lylene with no stars. I think Lylene starts at 800 and ends at 2,000. As far as, well, okay, yeah, nah, I'll put Pentrella in 4th place and Lovander in 3rd place, because Lovander has the same exact healing type as Felbat. Like I said, with world bosses, she's not going to be healing that much, but with tower bosses, she will be. And then last but not least, we'll put Teefant for healing properties, and that's because they start at 200 and end at 400. When it comes to combat, that's how I would rearrange it. I switched Lovander and Pentally. I think that's what it is. I think I remembered how to say it. Still can't get that one right, but I moved Pentally up. Lylene and Lylene Nock are both comparable against Frostallion, as she soloed Frostallion. Same with the Lylene Nock. With the Felbat, does really good against the tower bosses and was able to solo against quite a few of them in my own testing. I didn't show those testings, but she was really good at that with little help from me as well. So she does really well even on her own. Battalia, that actually might be what it is. I'm going to pronounce this 6 different ways before I get it right. Battalia has decent combat, and if I'm not mistaken, with a little bit of assistance from me, she ended up soloing Frostallion. Now, given their IVs are really good with combat between the Lylenes and Battalia, but Battalia's health and defense was not that great, and she managed to still do pretty all right. Lovander is a lot weaker when it comes to, in the comparison to Felbat, and since they're so close with both of these being got at the same time, then Felbat, again, is just my choice overall between the two. And then the Teefant, although after maxing him out and taking him against tower bosses and letting him go against a couple of the world bosses and defeating Blazamut soloing, which was surprising, but actually really funny, even though I still put him at the bottom of the list because it requires a lot to do, and the breeding amalgamation that I had to put together was a long list. So that's why I put the Teefant at the bottom. When it comes to base pal stuff, and this is the order that I would put him in as far as that. Lylene Nock, although she is a medicine and a gathering and handy, I'd put her there. And the reason for this is because Lylene has all the same things as Lylene Noct does. The difference is that she has planting as well, and she's your planting 4 to start out with. So if you have a bunch of Lylenes, there's really no use for a Lylene Noct. Even though she does work at night on medicine stands, Felbat would be a better choice because it could be got earlier and you don't have to worry about rebreeding into a Lylene Noct specifically for that, because all 3 of these have the same medicine starting at a level 3 medicine. And with the introduction of Bella Noir, she starts out at a 4 medicine. So there is something to be said with that. And whenever I get the chance to start breeding her, then we will definitely do a video on her specifically. And I put Felbat well over Lylene Noct because of that in particular thing. You can get her a lot earlier, a lot simpler, and she has the same medicine as a Lylene Noct. The difference is like 20 levels, whereas in Lylene Noct is at a level 49, the Felbat is only level 23, and you can get her relatively early. And again, in order to get a Lylene Noct, you either got to get the boss or breed a Lylene Noct or breed a Lylene with a Metasting in order to get a Lylene Noct. And Metasting you can find over here on this island, or the boss version, which is actually somewhere over here. I don't know how I've invested this much time into this in particular map and not want to kill it. If that tells you anything, that is not really worth to go after. So I put Lovander over Petalia because Petalia, once you get her, which is fairly simple, you can find them down here. They're a little bit more of a rare spawn, but you can find them down here as low as level 20. And then her actual boss is at 28, so fairly early. And you breed her with a Masanda, which you can get from around this area pretty easily. They're like all abundant through here. But you put those 2 together to get your Lylene. And that's why she's down here, because as soon as you get her, you should be trying to get your Lylene by getting a Masanda. Reason why I put Lovander above Pentrella is because if you do have raids on, you're more likely to see them earlier than you would venturing out in the world, because they spawn up in the desert at night. This is where you'll find them mostly, and they're out mid-level, like 30s, something like that. But I've seen them as low as level 13 in the raids, like when you yourself get raided if you have raids turned on. So this is kind of a decent thing to get early on as well, because she starts out with a 2 handiwork. And my first playthrough, when we ended up snagging one of these, this was our handiwork person for the longest time before we even got into Anubis. So they do come fairly early if you're lucky enough to find them in the raid. As far as Lylene Noct, I put her towards the bottom here because I don't really see much use for her to breed 4 without also having a Lylene. The only advantage is the whole dark aspect, but then you have Felbat for that. There are easier and quicker opportunities to get a better medicine than the Felbat. And the Teefant I put at the bottom because it's a watering one when it starts out, and usually you're grabbing Pangolets before you even grab a Teefant, and that covers your watering at the beginning. Although Teefant does have healing, and usually you have a pretty low health pool when you first start out, and having a Teefant to heal you is not a bad thing, but at the same time they're just not that great to have over something like a Fox Parks, or even a Pangolit with the cannon with combat capability, or a Lift Monk. Even a Tansy would be a better option. Yeah, my personal overview of all the POWs encompassing everything, this is the order in which I would have them. So we have Lylene at the top. I mean, that's no surprise there. Great combat ability, which was really surprising. Great survivability, great healing, great base POW stuff. It's like a must-have regardless of how you're playing, when you're playing, or whatever. She's your best planter, hands down, and she has medicine 3 as well to start out with. You can get her a lot earlier than Bella Noir. That's what puts her on the top for me. Second place, I put Felbat because although the healing isn't that good with overworld bosses, she is really good with healing against tower bosses. So there's something to be said with that, because if you don't have enough firepower going into a tower boss fight and you're getting your butt whooped by their attacks, then you can use her beef her up and get a really good amount of healing out of her. Also, with her being nocturnal and medicine, she can be on par with Lylene, but only be able to do this at night as well. And the fact that she's just medicine is a really good thing, because then you don't have to mess with her in the monitoring stand whatsoever. Petalia I put into third place for one reason and one reason only, is because the breeding capabilities to get a Lylene while using a Missandei is very necessary and very quick to do. I mean, she's a good pal to have for planting if you don't have anything else going, but as soon as you get her, then you should be trying to get a Missandei to breed with, and that should be one of your first things to go after. I put Lylene Noct in fourth place because although she does have very good combat capability, her base pal skills kind of are outshined by the Felbat and by the regular Lylene, because she's actually missing one. If she was a planting 4 to start out with like Lylene is, but she was a dark type, I would say she'd be absolutely worth it, because then you could be able to plant at night as well, especially for those of you on official servers, because y'all's day-night cycle is in a locked, you can't sleep through the night, I guess, on officials. Lovander I put into fifth place, mainly because of her combat ability wasn't that great. As far as survivability when going against the tower bosses, which is the main reason why you would have her, because she does the same thing as Felbat, is just not that great. She does okay, but not great. Requires a lot of assistance behind. As far as base pal stuff, she has a 2 transporting, 2 handiwork, starts out at a 1 mining, and a 2 medicine. So that's one reason why I would put her above a Lylene Noct, just because of the ability to get her early enough through raids if they're coming at you, because like I said, the one that we got was at level 13, so you can find them pretty early if you're lucky. And then T-Fant, although surprising in power, I still put at the bottom because of the lack of base pal stuff and the lack of healing in comparison to these other 5. But all in all, the T-Fant was probably the most ridiculous 2C, little cutesy elephant dude just whooping some butt. So yeah, that's my tier list order here and my overview of all the healing pals. Next onto the list is we're going to be running applied damage pals. So that means that Chillet, Ragnahawk, Anubis, Pyron Noct, Beacon, Wixen for Dash. We're also going to mix in the Vanworms, Vanworm Crystal, and the Robin Quill, U-Volt, so on and so forth. You get the picture. Any of the pals that are as reads when fighting together applies said elemental attack power while mounted or while fighting together. And then also when it comes to the Vanworms and the Robin Quill, can be ridden as a flying mount, increases damage players dealt 2 weak points while mounted. So we'll be testing all those in no in particular order yet. More than likely, I know a lot of people were talking about the Ragnahawk, which we did a head-to-head with against the Pyron, but we didn't do a full breakdown on the Ragnahawk. Probably going to be these 2 first, because I don't think I have much of the other ones bred up right now. But yeah, other than that, if you like my content, drop a sub. If you like this video, drop a like. Write down in the comments down below which one of the healing pals was your favorite to either see or your favorite to use, as far as if you use them in combat or if you use them strictly for base pal stuff, whatever you want to put. Other than that, keep you willy washed, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.